Yes.
And Dallas worked here.
And Dixon too, right?
Yeah. And Dallas worked here for a long time.
Well, you know, the body on my race car specialties car was built by Dallas's brother in their friggin' garage out there in Chula Vista.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Roger?
Uh-huh. Yeah. He built
Well, anyway, Dallas and Ronnie and I and some of his shooting friends and stuff always went to lunch together. So I've been around Ronnie a lot, you know, because of that.
We're ready, gentlemen, whenever you are.
You know, I thought we ought to tell a funny story about San Diego though first.
Sure.
Go back a little bit.
Yeah, let's.
When I was a young man and president of the San Diego Retirement Association,
Yes.
I was announcing one day, and I got a call from Tech up to the booth, and they said, "You need to come down here." And I said, "Why?" He said, "Well, there's a car down here. I don't think you want him to run." And I said, "Okay." So I go down there, and I said, they pointed to this dragster, and I went over and looked at it, and I said, "What's the problem?" And he said, "Well, it's got a cardboard body, and it has silver duct tape around the cardboard."
Mm-hmm.
And I said, "Well, it's got a metal floor pan in it." You know, I mean, those days we didn't care. You know, I mean, it wasn't no big deal. I mean, we even ran drag races when the track was wet. You know, you just had to slip the clutch a little bit to get going. So anyway, I told him, "Well, go ahead and let him run." Well, anyway, long story short, the first pass he ran 150 miles an hour. That was a track record, and it was Mickey Thompson.
Really?
Is that right? Is that right?
Oh, great story.
Yeah, and so I've often thought about that.
Yeah.
And I ended up driving some of his stuff many, many years later. You know?
Wow. Thank you. Wonderful story. Those are great.
Anyway, we're starting into the Woody,
Yep.
the Woody time frame.
Yep.
And
Okay, just let them set long enough for me to scan them.
well, you want.
I got that one. I got that
Okay.
one already. Thanks. Got ahead of you on that one.
Okay, and then this is a group of pictures that Bob shot to go into Hot Rod Magazine.
Uh-huh. Okay, I'm going across the left one.
See, not only could you get a Woody car for a reasonable price, but he actually got the things done.
Yeah.
You
Yeah,
know,
on time, man.
Yeah, Woody was the guy who, they cranked them bad boys out, you know, really fast, where if you wanted like a Don Long car or something like that, yeah, you were.
And I'm noticing on this car it does not have the it doesn't have the port injection. It's just strictly Enderley on top. Is that
No.
correct?
Yeah.
Shower head only at that time.
At first, there was two nozzles right here,
Yeah.
and those nozzles came in and bent down, and on the end of the nozzles they had like a little shower head.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And we could move these, we could move them this way and that way and move the area that the fuel came into, but you could never ever get the cylinders even. There was no way to get the cylinders even. And
Right.
finally, when they came out with port injection, we were able to start adjusting the amount of fuel to each cylinder. I might point out this
Yes.
Scintilla Vertex
Yeah.
is the same Scintilla Vertex that was on my Plymouth 6, was on my Plymouth V8, was on my square roll bar car, and on this car.
So you had that since when?
I had it since '54.
Wow. Speed secret.
Cirilla tuned up.
And what kind of maintenance, with this setup the way it is right now, what kind of maintenance did you find yourself doing on this car week to week or after a race?
Well, after every, well, depending on what you brought home.
Right.
If you notice right here, there's a girdle.
Yeah.
That's a steel girdle that was attempting to hold the lower end together.
Right.
We used to run 100% nitro in this car. And we used to run 100% nitro with 2 ounces of benzol. And it had, fortunately, it didn't have a lot of blower boost, and it didn't have very much compression. The pistons were down 200 thousandths in the cylinder.
Yeah.
These heads were 1954 354 heads
On a 331 block?
on a 331 block.
Right.
And basically we had box rods, which were plates welded on standard stock rods.
Yeah, Don's box rods.
These weren't Don's. These
What were they?
Crowder built them for me.
Yeah.
They were just box rods, and a stock crank, stock block filled with rock block, and stock heads, better valve springs, a cam.
Right.
And the exhaust rockers were aluminum. The intake rockers were stock. The camshaft was originally on this engine. The camshaft was a solid lifter flat tappet cam with adjustable push rods.
Mm-hmm.
Stock timing chain.
Wow.
Most everything on it was stock, with the exception of how the pistons were. And we were, at that time, we got a little sponsorship from JE, and so JE was giving us our pistons. But like I said, they were 200 down. We used Federal Mobile bearings at the time because they were a little softer. And
So what did you find? Did you hurt on this car on a regular basis, or not that much?
well, the biggest problem was chattering the main bearings.
Mm-hmm.
We'd chatter the mains so hard that you'd have to knock the main caps off with a hammer, because they would literally weld themselves to the block.
Mm.
And the blocks didn't last very long. You would start to pull the webbing out of the blocks.
Didn't the girdle help though?
The girdle helped, but it didn't solve the problem. And mainly what we'd do is we'd burn a hole in the piston, or we'd take some bearings out. We didn't have very good oil in those days,
Mm-hmm.
and we used to have to use castor oil,
Mm-hmm.
regular castor bean oil,
Yeah.
and we would save it because it cost $29 a case in those days. And that was a lot of money. So we would drain the oil and save it and let the fuel separate from it and then reuse it again.
Mm.
And you know, nitro wasn't that expensive. I used to pay $407 a drum for nitro, and send our poor wives up to Mickey Thompson's and pick the nitro up and bring it back. One time my wife called me from a neighbor's phone up on Claremont somewhere. I'm broke down up here with a flat tire. I got 100 gallons of nitro in the back of this truck. I'm at work. Right?
Yeah.
I'm go,
Trouble.
find some nice guy to fix your tire for you. I'm at work.
Why the 331 versus a 92 or 54? Any particular reason? It was just available, or what?
Well, that's what I had.
Okay.
Just what I had. And you know, like I said, we didn't have money to go buy a good motor. I never had a good motor. Never ever had a good motor. Most guys had strokers, and most guys had good rods and pistons and rocker arms and stuff like that. But
Mm-hmm.
and I had a stock, you know, pretty much stock blower, and everything you see here, here, and here, and all of this was all borrowed. And it took me time to
Mm-hmm.
gather up the money to replace it and give it back.
Okay, let's move on.
And they got
142 inch wheelbase.
142. Okay, good. Okay, let me get that. Let me get a good shot of this. Of the shot of you with the car in the car. What does it say at the bottom? It says Colt Brothers and Cook. So they.
They
They
did
do
our
the balancing.
They
They
did our
balance.
balancing and our machine work on the engines.
Uh-huh.
My first drag racing partners with the dragster, the Colt brothers.
Colt brother. Yeah.
There's Lee and I.
Colt never charged a balance at anything I ever had. He
Those
really-
guys took really good
They
care
were
of
really,
me.
really
Yeah.
great guys.
Yeah.
I visited Don Cope up in Washington.
Did you?
Yeah.
Is Lee Drake still around or not?
No,
No.
his lead passed away. He fell off a roof not New Zealand, but where is it over there?
I know what you're talking about, I can't think of it either.
It's the last America left.
Hmm.
Anyway,
Yeah,
he
good,
fell
thank
off
you.
the roof over there and killed himself.
Okay, thank you.